As speakers, how do we develop creative visualization? Creative visualization. So very important, because as a speaker, you are endeavouring to arouse emotion in the listeners. In that way you can persuade them, influence them, get them to take action. And it can only be done by moving them with emotion. And you can do that by becoming very good at creative imagination, enabling you to put your pictures, the stories you're coming up with, into the minds and hearts of your listeners. I'm at the moment reading this book. I Can See Clearly Now by Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. I've been reading his books since 1990, when my wife first bought me for Father's Day, You Will See It When You Believe It. In this particular book, Wayne Dyer is writing about all of his life experiences from when he was a little boy. It's probably his final book, because Wayne died a few years back, and this book was written when he was 72 years of age. I think he died at 75. In it, he talks about when he was 10 years of age. He was in a class where the teacher, a Mrs. Engels, would, if the class were good, at about 2:45 in the afternoon, would read a story to the class. And she used to read the story, The Secret Garden. And Wayne was enthralled. And he became very creative from listening to the story he was told. When I look back on my own life, I realise much of the same thing happened to me. When I was a kid at school, if it was raining and if they couldn't go out to sport, a teacher by the name of Mr. Wisdom, would you believe, Mr. Wisdom, would tell stories orally to the class, and he was fascinating, absolutely riveting. And then later, when I was about 10 or 11, a Mr. Ritalik, one of our teachers, on Friday afternoon would read stories to the class, and he'd read them in such a way that you were carried away, you were into the story. He read Treasure Island, and then he would stop at a word like dexterity and explain what dexterity meant, and then he would continue with the story. He also told us Tom Sawyer. And I believe that in those early years, listening to Mr. Wisdom, listening to Mr. Ritalik, I became quite able to create pictures in my own mind by listening to someone else speak, if they did it right, if they told the story right. And I believe that I have that gift, that I'm able to do the same with other people. And I think it came about simply because of my listening to other people tell stories to me. This, of course, developed the passion for reading stories. In my early days, it was always fiction. Later on, when I got to about 40 onwards, it was non-fiction, the gathering of knowledge. But those early years are so important. I don't know whether they read to kids in school today. Maybe that's considered old hat. But I will say this, nothing develops within us that creative visualization more than being able to listen to a story, and rather than view it on a screen, listen to it and then create the pictures in our own mind. That's the way. to become creative with visualization.